Hi, my name is Dave Bernhardson. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education at South Washington County Schools. I'd like to welcome you to the show It's Elementary. And our focus on It's Elementary today is on T3, which is Transforming Thinking Through Technology. And some of you may have heard about it. We're really engaged in this initiative at 3 of our schools. The 3 schools would be Newport, Crestview, and Pullman. And what T3 really works to accomplish is using technology to personalize learning for students. As we look to meet student needs, we know we can meet them in a large group, a small group, but we really want to get down to that individual student. And one of the things we have found is that through technology, you can really accomplish that. And our teachers are working hard with our kids to make that happen. So as a start, let's take off and let's head over to Crestview Elementary and see what's taking off over there. Today we're over at Crestview Elementary with Mrs. Monson in her 4th grade classroom, and as you can see in the background, they're working on their iPads. Every student at Crestview has an iPad, and specifically in 4th grade, there are certain aspects or different aspects of the day that they use the iPads for learning. Mrs. Monson, as you look at your school day, what % of the day are iPads incorporated, what's taking place, and in what manner do you use them?
I try to use iPads as much as I can. I know that my students use them for their social studies and science books. We don't actually have textbooks for those. And I also try to use them as often as possible and try to make it enrich the learning in the lesson that I already have.
Are there times of the day where you just turn the iPads upside down or put them on the desk and use the traditional methods?
Oh, yes, definitely. We always have to go back to the traditional method sometimes. And, sometimes it just is easier to do it on the iPads, and sometimes it's just easier to do it the traditional methods, too.
So as you think of benefits, and you talked about enriching or individualization, what are some of the benefits that you've experienced this school year?
I think that some of the benefits would include they're able to, I think, go further into some of the things with the internet and being able to research some topics that they want, and they're able to choose some of the stuff that they learn rather than me telling them all the time.
So there's that potential to individualize more.
Yes.
How about, of course, with anything that you use, there's a challenge. Even in the traditional methods, there's challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've experienced?
One challenge is they don't always work right away. We tried Haiku Deck yesterday just so that we could take care of all the glitches beforehand, and they've gotten really good at being patient. And I just find trying the lesson the day before I really want to use it is beneficial. So today they're working on their state reports, which is a 4th grade thing. Talk a little bit about what they're in the midst of. They have researched a state. They picked a state, researched the state. They wrote a paper on it, a research paper, and now they're creating a presentation that they'll share with the class. They're using Haiku Deck, which is a form of a PowerPoint. So as you think about that, the presentation of what they put forth has a whole different look than a traditional method. Yes, it does. Instead of doing a poster or finding time to go to the computer lab, it's a lot easier to just have them doing it in the classroom, and then if they finish early on something else, they can go back to it too. So in essence, do they plug into your system and display it up on the board so everybody can see it? Yes, they do, and then they'll stand up there and talk about it, so each individual iPad will be displayed when it's their turn to present. Sounds a lot like what we as adults do when we do presentations to people, huh? Yes. Well, thank you so much for inviting us in today and giving us a chance to see what your students are doing, and thanks for all you do for our kids as well. Thank you. We're still in Mrs. Munson's class at Crestview, and today we're with
Dominic Atkins.
Dominic. Okay, Dominic, you've been working on your state report. What state do you have?
South Dakota.
How did you end up with South Dakota?
Because my cousins live there, and it's a really fun place.
Have you been there before? Oh, that helps a lot. So what kinds of things have you come up with about South Dakota that you're going to share with your classmates in your report? Have you found anything out? I think you and I were talking about the capital.
The capital is Peary.
Okay, Pierre. Anything else you've come up with, or are you still in the midst of developing it all?
I'm still making it.
Okay. Is it cool to be able to do it on an iPad? Is it a little different than having all those papers all over your desk and cutting and putting all things together? So it's a cool thing? Cool. Thanks, Dominic.
Thanks.
Back in Mrs. Munson's class, who are we with right now?
Alex.
Hey, Alex, what state did you pick?
Virginia.
Virginia. Have you found anything out that's really unique about Virginia, or things that you think are really cool?
There were 8 presidents born there.
So do you think that since you did Virginia and there's 8 presidents born there, that you might end up being one of those guys too?
No.
No? No desire to be president? No, but there's a lot of rich history in Virginia, isn't there? Cool. Thanks, man. Back to Mrs. Monson's class. Who do we have right now?
Maggie,
All right, Maggie, what state do you have?
Georgia.
And what do you want to tell us about Georgia?
There's
Do you know what the capital is?
Atlanta.
Okay. Do you know anything else about Georgia that you found out so far? I know you guys are just starting.
I think that the state bird is really cool. It's the brown thrasher. I think that's a really cool name.
Is it a cool looking bird too?
Yeah.
Okay, the brown thrasher. How would you like it if your name was Brown Thrasher? That wouldn't work too good, would it?
No.
No, and one of the things we were just talking about before we did this was that we've had all this bad weather, but people in Atlanta have bad weather, but it's nothing like us, is it?
No.
No. All right, thank you, and good luck with your state project.
Thank you.
All right. We're at Crestview Elementary with Mr. Tschumperlin, and I just want to point out before we talk to Mr. Tschumperlin, this district has a lot of outstanding teachers, and we know that you have done an outstanding job at Crestview, not only supporting your kids, but helping other teachers in the district, so we appreciate that, Mr. Tschumperlin.
I really appreciate that. Thank
Hey,
you.
your students are working on something. What are they working on?
They are working on literature circle presentations today, working on different reading comprehension skills that we have been learning over the past few weeks.
And as you look at what they're doing, they have notebooks, they have their books that they're involved in, they're working on the smart board, they have their iPads, they have a lot of tools to use. How have those iPads changed things during the course of this year?
Changed it a lot. It opens up so many more different things that they can do. They've learned how to use different apps and different programs, and to be honest, they know how to use them in a lot of ways better than I do, and they'll show me how to use them, and they're able to incorporate those things into their presentations to enhance their learning and make their presentations more interesting.
Great, and one of the things that we've talked about is iPads, like anything else, are a tool, so there's times to use them, there's times not to use them. Have you found that to be true too?
Oh, definitely, yep. It's also, created some things where we've had to, set rules and guidelines for them, and they had to learn those, but for the most part, they've done a nice job with that.
And one of the strengths that we talked about in your teaching is meeting the individual needs of kids, because we know that every learner is different. Has the iPad helped that happen?
It sure does. Some kids, maybe you talk to Annabella there, sometimes the technology is good and they like to use it, and for some, they don't want to use it, and kids have a choice.
Well, thank you, and thanks for letting us come in today. And as people may hear, it's a busy classroom, and that's great because it means they're all learning.
All right, thank you.
Take care. We're at Crestview in Mr. Tschumperlin's class, and we're sitting with a small group of students that are working on something. And Annabella, what are you guys working on right now?
We're working on our literature circle presentations right now.
So tell people that are watching what you think a literature circle is.
It's a book that you choose, and you have to read certain chapters. And we have jobs in their sheets, and we how do I say this? Like, we put them into like games or on our iPads, for example. And for my job, I'm going on Google Drive, and I made a presentation where, since I'm the questioner for my job, I typed in some questions, and my friends in my literature circle have to answer these. So they're going to go into their Google Drive. I just send it to them.
So with the Google Drive, does that mean that you all have access to the same stuff? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Anisha.
Anisha, what's your job?
Mine is to kind of use educations to answer the questions that they have to do on this.
So, have you enjoyed using the iPads? Have they helped you with your learning?
Yeah, it's actually much easier because instead of like wasting pieces of paper, you be resourceful and you can use an iPad, and instead of like wasting ink on the printer, you can just send it to other people on their iPads.
Is it easy to create your own stuff?
On the iPads? Sometimes, but the technology, for me, it's harder because I need to figure out all the tools to it.
Now, before you started, Mr. Tschumperlin asked if you needed the smart board. What was that for?
The smartboard, some people, well, they use their iPad and they can hook it up to the smartboard, and their friends in their literature circle can like look around it, they can draw on it, and they can, I don't know.
So what's your name?
Ashley.
Ashley, do you have a job?
Yeah, I'm discussion director.
What does a discussion director do?
They also come up with questions from the stories, but it's sort of like teacher questions.
So one of the things I've noticed is you guys use your notebooks, you use the books, and you use the iPad, so you have all kinds of tools to use. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool. Thanks for the work that you're doing. Thanks for sharing that with us. Hey, as we're in second grade at Crestview with Mrs. Brown, you've got a group of students here. What are these students involved in?
We are working on nonfiction, and what they're doing is they're doing a report on whales. And so they're using Simple Mind right now to make a mind map of what they know about whales. And so they've just started, and they're working on what they eat. So they're using their book, and they're researching to see what whales eat.
So as far as what they've got here, they got their traditional book, but they're using the iPad to do basically some of the stuff they might have done paper pencil, but have been pretty hard to do.
Yep. And then what we're going to do with these is we're going to take our mind maps and turn them into PowerPoints that they're going to present to the class on their iPads using Haiku Deck.
Okay, so then they can put that right up in front of the screen and share that just like we do as adults at
Yep.
meetings? Okay.
Exactly.
So what are the things that you have found to be different this year, having iPads available to your kids?
Well, one of the things that's really nice is that we can do research, and we don't all have to head down to the computer lab. So that's been really nice. And I can also differentiate the reading groups, particularly with different books, especially like we use Raz Kids a lot. It's a good thing for Read to Self, and then also our guided reading books.
So when you said that word differentiate, you're really talking about how you can meet the individual needs of kids.
Exactly. There are so many diverse needs within our groups, and so using the iPads is a way that I can really change how I instruct and the things that they're getting into their guided reading groups.
So of course, as we were talking to some of the kids, we talked about that the iPad is a tool. It's not something you use all day long.
No, but they are in their hands probably 90% of the day.
Okay.
So,
And with that, there's probably some challenges too?
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty fortunate that I kind of worked with them a lot last year, and so I had kind of an edge up on the rest of the clan, but it worked out really well. I mean, for the biggest challenge was the upgrade on the system.
Okay.
And once we got that through, they
No
worked out
different
really
than
well.
our computers at home.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Brown. Thanks
You're
for what
very
you're doing
welcome.
here at Crestview, and thanks for sharing with us what your kids are doing with their guided reading.
Yep, you're welcome.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, we're in Mrs. Brown's class. All of you guys are second graders, right? Now, what I'm going to ask them is I'm going to ask them what their first name is, and they've got an iPad here, so I'm just going to ask them what they're doing and what they're learning. Do you want to go first, man? Okay, who are you?
Aiden.
And what are you working on?
Storyboard.
Oh, and what are you learning?
How to make stories.
You know how to make stories? Do you really? Oh, cool. Thanks. What's your name?
Mariah.
Say it again so they can hear you.
Mariah.
Well, Mariah, what do you have in front of you? What are you working on?
Storyboard.
Storybud? And what is Storybud showing you?
To make stories.
Okay. Did I say the name of the app wrong? What's it called?
Storybird.
Storybird. Okay. What's your name?
Abby.
And Abby, what do you have in front of you? What are you looking at?
We're looking at pictures to make our story.
And do you think the iPads are a cool thing to use?
Yes.
So why are they cool?
When you get home, you can sometimes play games.
Oh, do you still learn from the games? Yeah. Okay. Are there things that you do in your classroom where you don't use the iPads? Okay. Can you tell us some of those things?
Spelling. Read to Self.
So the iPads are one of the things that you use to learn? All right. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. Okay, keep working.